Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to day 3 of our live daily podcast coming to you from COP26 in Glasgow, Scotland. I've been hosting these solo for the last 2 days, as you might have noticed. Tonight, it's an embarrassment of riches. I have 2 colleagues with me today. First, Chris Wilke, who is the Global Advocacy Manager for the Waterkeeper Alliance. Chris, thank you for joining us. And we also have Dr. John Capece, my colleague, a climate change expert, and the Kissimmee Waterkeeper. John just arrived today, so he's a brand new Glaswegian, arriving this afternoon, and he couldn't be with us because he was managing a really interesting 4-hour conference in Gainesville on climate change. John, welcome, and tell us what your first thoughts are being here in Glasgow and a little bit about your conference in Gainesville.
Sure, thank you, K.C. First, in the interest of truth in advertising, I wouldn't qualify myself as a climate change expert. Climate change is such a diverse set of topics and expertise, extremely broad, involving a wide range of physical and social scientists. And my specialization is engineering, specifically agricultural engineering and water quality. So I've had some experience working in climate change topics, individual topics, including energy generation, alternative energy. So there are areas of climate change that I have some experience in, and I'm very much looking forward to sharing with the other water keepers. But as far as my impressions upon arriving here, first, the process of getting to these UN conferences is always a flurry of activities in the weeks approaching and then the days. I've been attending. I attended in 2015 along with Michael Fidler, who's with us here today, and then Rock Abu Jaude Jr. We participate under the name of Campus Climate Corps. And Campus Climate Corps is a program of the a nonprofit organization, Intelligentsia International, that Michael and I manage. And Rock joined us in 2015 as a freshman student at the University of Florida, and we came and did a huge exhibit at the Conference of Youth, which attracted over 2,000 students to the event in Paris. It went incredibly well. And our objective in participating over the past several years, Rock's been attending every one of these events since 2015 in Paris, with the objective of trying to broaden the reach of the COP sessions and events by virtual engagement. So back in 2015, there was very little to no virtual engagement. We started doing virtual poster sessions as part of the Conference of Youth. So this year, we're in effect realizing sort of the vision that we'd had back then with both these daily briefings for students sponsored by Campus Climate Corps, and then now with you managing the Waterkeeper process, making that happen with Chris for the water specialists. So we are beginning to achieve and the virtual engagement. This was forced upon the UN in effect by COVID. So we're looking forward to this information reaching many more people through various channels. So before coming here on October 31st, we held a 4-hour conference at the University of Florida. It was virtual. It was very well attended, and the program went off incredibly well. It included the Florida Commissioner of Agriculture presenting the Florida Climate and Energy Plan from her office. And it also included another elected official, Anna Escamante, representative, State House representative from the Orlando area, who's offering legislation this session in Florida to mandate 2040 goals for transforming Florida electric generation to renewable sources. We had administrators from the University of Florida, high-level administrators, participating, both speaking and introducing some of the other speakers. Students, the Florida Agricultural Economics Club, helped by hosting the event, and their officers spoke. We had students from the Florida Climate Institute talk about their research and their activities. We had faculty, political science, biology faculty. We also had a couple of excellent presentations from some younger folks with the Extinction Rebellion organization and some of their activities throughout the state. So it was a very diverse program, well delivered and well attended. So we're looking forward to having more of these conferences and expanding their scope. One of the things we did in 2015 was to develop detailed outlines for such student conferences around the country, and we're hoping to realize those next year. So this was a first step in that direction. But traveling to the COP meetings is always very interesting, because the nearer you come to the venue, the greater the density of participants that you encounter, to where the final leg of your flight typically is nothing but people sitting all around you, all going to the conference. So you start talking about what organizations they're representing, what are their priority issues, and it's a tremendous exchange. And it's sort of an introduction to what people experience at the conference itself. So it's always exciting traveling. Now, as far as my thoughts on what we'll find here is, I'm looking forward to seeing many more of the sessions being accessible virtually. There's going to be limited space available in the meetings due to COVID, so many of the sessions will probably be viewed by the participants through the UNFCCC portal. In addition, the composition of the pavilions, there's maybe 50 of these pavilions, some national collections of nations and so on. And the U.S., of course, since recent years has not had an official administration, a federal level pavilion offering programs, but the cities cobbled together a very fine pavilion, and I think supported by the likes of Tom Steyer and Bloomberg and such, and they have a lot of excellent content. So I did see emails from the White House. They put together about 25 different subject groups, each with maybe 40 to 80 agency specialists on these email threads, compiling their proposals for sessions. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the official US government pavilion looks like in its set of programs. I'm also curious to see who participates and who doesn't. You know, there's all the talk about Russia and China not participating. Russia didn't have a pavilion in 2019. China had a very large and very active pavilion, and people were extremely encouraged to see that, to hope that we might see leadership from the Chinese government, when in fact there was no leadership coming from the United States. So if China is backing out somewhat, it'll be rather disappointing, but I remain hopeful, and we'll see what we encounter there tomorrow, or at least for me, it'll be the first visit.
Yeah, it's really interesting, John, and there are 20,000 people attending. It's on 1 million square feet of exhibition space, and 194 nations are attending. 120 leaders were at the conference yesterday and today. It tied up security like crazy. So that's great to get your thoughts of the day. And did you see all that greenwashing at the airport with the murals that are like 40 feet long of all these corporations that say they're totally in on the green movement? I know you would get a kick out of that. Those of us who are skeptics sort of turned a wry eye when we saw that.
Well, that's been common on this issue for decades. The corporations, when they do get involved, they manage their messaging and their perceptions. So they'll put as much effort or more effort into the public relations aspect as into the scientific and technical and manufacturing aspects that are where the rubber actually meets the road. Yeah, no, that's absolutely. Chris, welcome again, and I'm just kind of interested to hear your thoughts about what's going on in the events as they unfold.
Yeah, thanks, K.C. Glad to be here again. Welcome, John. Today was my first day at the COP. I landed over the weekend, and it's spent a day acclimating and working on some other stuff yesterday and avoiding the huge crowds on Monday. Today it was like what you might expect going to a ball game or something like that. There was a big crowd, but it moved and it went through. Spent most of my day in the blue zone today, which is where all the pavilions are from the various governments, and then some also issue-based pavilions. I think, because I was at the location today, I'll have to come back and read the headlines to see some of the other things that went down, because you only see a piece of it when you're there. I think the thing that was most noteworthy today, and I'll put a little asterisk next to this, but they rolled out the signers on the methane pledge. And they have 100 different signer nations now, which is quite significant. And they're pledging to reduce methane by 75%. If we remember, 2.5 months ago, the IPCC report came out and told us that we have to address methane. It's our only chance really to make progress in as short a time as we need to in order to avoid triggering cascading tipping points, because methane has a much faster response in the atmosphere. So if we stop emitting methane, the methane that's already up there will, in a sense, they use the word drain out, but it's actually a chemical reaction, and it's no longer there in nearly the quantity after 10 or 12 years. And so this is a very historic agreement. Biden and Kerry were there. They rolled it out. They talked about how significant it was. They're looking at the releases from the oil and gas sector. This is not fossil fuels that we burn. This is stuff that leaks out of the pipes in the drilling process. And when they mine for coal, they find methane beds and that escapes. So they are coming up with ways to capture that. So we're still talking about fossil fuels here, but they're talking about getting rid of the methane leakage. And with 100 nations signing the pledge, it is pretty significant. But I put an asterisk on this because there's a little bit of double talk going on there. So I think they are going to need to sharpen their pencils. And particularly alarmed at the government of Canada. Justin Trudeau was there and talking about reducing methane from the pipelines and things like that. And they are one of the largest exporters of crude oil, and they have some of the dirtiest crude oil in the world with the tar sands. So it's a little bit like putting lipstick on a pig at that point, but it is good to see progress, and it is good to see them targeting methane. No mention of hydropower or the significant impact that dams can have, but they did mention agriculture and pledging to reduce methane from agriculture by 30%. And they also say that methane is we're still increasing the methane in the atmosphere. So it is increasingly large part of the greenhouse gases that we emit. So we've actually made a little bit of progress on CO2, but not as much on methane. And then the other thing, just real quickly, is all of the doublespeak, the corporate doublespeak, the techno-optimism and the Church of Technological Optimism, I think a writer coined a few years ago. There's a lot of that there, that there's going to be a new gee-whiz technology to carry us home, and they're all on that message. So I think Greta Thunberg said blah, 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 and Boris Johnson echoed her, and I heard it loud and clear. A lot of blah, blah, blah at the conference today.
Yeah. Well, we're expecting it. We are kind of trying to see whether we can kind of poke through the weeds and see if there's any really tangible progress being made. The methane agreement does sound like a consequential progress, so welcome that. And we've kind of been trying to capture some of the events on the ground on these days. It is easing up a little bit. The crowds were enormous yesterday and the day before, eased off a little bit. And our videographer, Michael Fidler, a really integral member of our team here reporting or covering, shot a few photos today. So we'd like to just show those to you, to show you a little bit what it's looking like on the ground here. And we're going to ask Michael to talk about the photos that he took and to kind of explain what we're looking at. Michael is from the Czech Republic, and he's a wonderful asset for us So Michael, fire away.
Here you should be seeing some of the videos from today. So in the morning, there was a lot of police officers around because some of the important politicians here, including Joe Biden, were coming in. So this is just the entry to the conference. And I was expecting that the crowd would not be that large, but it took me 45 minutes to wait here. So some people were not that, that didn't have that enough patience like I did. So they call it. And as soon as I got in after those 45 minutes, I thought I'm in, but actually it was not the case. There was still the security. So here the word now has a little bit a different meaning. Now here is the now as it was meant. So just a little quick tour. This is the Hydro building when some of the plenaries are located. The main attribute is the globe above the whole hall. So this is looking at the globe from top, and the globe is rotating. It's kind of difficult to get it on a photo, but I hope that gave you an idea how the Hydro looks like. There are also the newspaper and the TV station located, and this is as close I was able to get to Prince Charles. I saw it through the CNN. Some of the rooms are closed for photographers and videographers, so you cannot really get there with a camera. Here we are in the SEC, the SEC building, where some of the pavilions are located, where most of them are located. And here are just few examples how the different nations or groups are providing the content there. So this is the German pavilion, for example. And I was thinking, hey, we have a really complicated technique in our set, but when I saw these photos, I think our technique is not really that complicated. One more look to the section where people are walking all around. And this is just the last photo of the set, give you an idea how huge the conference really is.
Mm-hmm. That's great, Michael. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. It's really an interesting little glimpse of the conference. So another thing that we're trying to do here on the ground at COP26, because this is a program being made by waterkeepers and for waterkeepers, so waterkeepers around the world are tuning in, and we want to highlight as many waterkeepers as we can. So today we spoke to a gentleman named Cheikh Fadel Wade, who is in Senegal, and Fadel told me that he had been intending to come, but the government of Senegal refused to allow them to be accredited for the conference. So this shows you what the political forces are at play that basically impede people's ability to attend and participate. So he attended remotely, and Chris has been doing work with Fadel and also Mbake Seck, who's the other waterkeeper in Senegal, including waterkeepers all over the world. So Chris, just tell us what your background with Fadel before we go to that interview with him.
Well, I'm excited to see the interview because I was riding a train at the time and was not able to join. Fadel Wade is an amazing advocate. He lives in a village called Bargny, which is south of Dakar, Senegal, which is the westernmost tip of Africa. And it's a fishing village. And he is an amazing environmentalist, but he is also an amazing community leader. And he is fighting for the health of his community. He's been facing impacts of coal, and now they're staring down the barrel of offshore drilling off their shores. And the UN Secretary General and the head of the IEA have told us we need to stop opening up new oil reserves, and that's exactly what they're doing off the coast of Senegal, and it's threatening, their artisanal fisheries there. So I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of that from Fadel, but he's an amazing spokesperson, and also just plug for his executive director, who is a very amazing person, also Daouda Gouye. I don't think he's here today, but they are quite a team, and they pivoted for community health when COVID was first rolling out. It was really champions of their community, and they were going around with hand sanitizers and masks, and continuing their work and continuing to hold seminars while protecting their community. So I'm excited to see this.
Yeah, and Kofi Annan said that no continent has been less responsible for the carbon out of control carbon footprints, and no continent has suffered more than Africa. So there's great work going on, not only in Senegal, but other countries around Africa. So let's hear from our guest tonight, who's phoning in remotely from Senegal, Fadel Wade. You can roll the tape, Michael. We are really pleased to have with us today Fadel Wade, who is the Bargny Waterkeeper. And I would like Fadel just to explain a recent success that they've had there in Bargny in the opposition of a coal-fired plant that is now offline. On vous écoute, Fadel.
Oui, bonjour à tous et vraiment merci pour l'invitation.
Thank you, everybody, and welcome everybody, and thank you for the invitation.
Voilà, donc vraiment, je suis venu pour présenter et puis notre succès de Bargny Waterkeeper et les communautés de Bargny contre la lutte
Fadel
de la centrale à charbon.
Talk about a recent success and the success of the entire community of Bargny.
Oui, parce que c'était pas évident que ce soit l'État du Sénégal, que ce soit les bailleurs, un projet pareil où on a mis plus de 150 milliards, une petite communauté puisse l'arrêter.
So they were able to stop a project that was valued at 150 million euros. Is that what you're saying, Fadel? 150 million, 150 millions d'euros, le valeur du projet, c'est ça?
Oui.
Oui, 150 million euros, which is an enormous investment in the tiny town of Bargny, but they were nonetheless able to stop this project. On vous écoute.
Voilà, donc les communautés se sont réunies, mais aussi, comme on dit, grâce à l'aide de Waterkeeper, parce qu'en 2015, lorsqu'ils sont venus au Sénégal, c'est à ce moment que le déclic s'est formé, parce qu'ils nous ont accompagnés sur la COP21 à Paris à faire une grande marche pour le climat.
So this is also in thanks to the Waterkeeper Alliance, who came to Bargny in 2015, and there was an enormous march at the 2015 Paris COP, where they participated in a march to advance the problem and the cause of the Bargny Waterkeeper and trying to arrest the development of the coal-fired plant. Je t'écoute, Fadel.
Voilà, donc après, lorsqu'ils sont partis, on s'est regroupé pour maintenant mettre en place un grand collectif où il y a le Bargny Waterkeeper, il y a les autres associations, les associations de jeunes et les associations de femmes.
Okay, so they created a coalition of fishermen, the women, because the women process the fish. Fish is the largest export of Senegal, so the fishing industry is incredibly important to not only Bargny, but to the economy of Senegal. So they put a coalition together of activists and fishermen and the women of the community to create this movement to combat the coal-fired plant.
Voilà. Maintenant, le Waterkeeper nous a accompagnés. On a porté plainte contre l'État du Sénégal, mais ça n'a pas marché. Mais on a continué à se battre. On a porté plainte aux banques qui ont financé, et cette fois-ci, ça a marché.
So they created a complaint or a protest in front of the government, which didn't work, and then finally they were able to stop the development of this plant. It was a huge plant, and it was stopped, and it's now offline.
Donc en 2017, la Banque néerlandaise de développement nous a envoyé une lettre en nous disant qu'ils ont renoncé maintenant à financer le charbon à cause de notre combat. En 2019, la Banque africaine de développement aussi a renoncé, lui aussi, à financer le charbon. Donc en 2020, ils ont déclaré faillite et le projet s'est arrêté.
So in 2017, they were able to get some of the financiers of the project to back away. And in 2019, I think you said that the banks stopped financing the project. And in 2020, the project was finally declared kaput, finished.
Voilà, maintenant, c'est là où nous en sommes. Le projet s'est arrêté. Tout est arrêté maintenant. Mais nous savons que le combat continue. Parce que l'État du Sénégal est dans les projections de faire de cette centrale une centrale à gaz. et nous savons que ce soit le charbon ou le gaz, c'est pareil pour nous.
So
Donc, nous ne voulons pas du charbon, nous ne voulons pas aussi du gaz.
So that battle was successful, but the government is still trying to create either gas-powered or coal-powered plants in the country, saying that the country needs access to affordable electricity. So the combat continues. The government is still trying to implement other plants in various regions around Senegal, which the collective is fighting as well.
Donc, c'est là où nous en sommes. On continue de s'organiser, on continue d'avoir des réunions pour se préparer. Parce que nous savons que l'État, parfois, ils ont mis beaucoup d'argent et ils ne veulent pas reculer. Mais nous aussi, nous sommes là, toute la communauté est derrière nous. Nous allons encore mener le combat s'ils veulent mettre la centrale à une centrale à gaz. Parce que pour nous, ce serait même plus dangereux parce qu'il y a des risques d'explosion et les femmes transformatrices sont tout aux alentours de la centrale à charbon.
Right, so they're going to continue the combat. Obviously, there's a lot of money in play, so the government is inclined to try to get these projects online. They're getting a lot of industrial and financial pressure, but the collective will continue to fight, and they're more concerned with, they're just as concerned about gas-powered plants because there's a risk of explosion, which could be very, which could injure a lot of people. So they will, the government is still pushing, the collective and the voices of the people are fighting back.
Voilà, donc maintenant, c'est là où nous en sommes. En attendant, chaque semaine, on se réunit parce qu'on a un siège à Bargny où on se réunit pratiquement tout le temps en parlant aussi d'autres choses. Parce qu'à Bargny, nous avons l'érosion côtière, nous avons un peu le pétrole qui va venir. Donc tout ça nous permet de plus en plus d'avoir toujours des réunions avec les jeunes et avec les femmes.
Est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose que nous, on peut faire pour vous soutenir de loin? Est-ce qu'il y a une pétition à signer ou quelque chose qu'on peut faire? Is there something we can do, Fadel, to support you and support this effort? Is there a petition to sign or pledging support or something? Is that what can we do?
Oui, c'est vrai, parce que nous savons que Waterkeeper ne nous a pas laissé. Tout le combat, on est avec Waterkeeper. Les Chris, Catherine et tout, voilà. Voilà, on s'entend tout le temps. Vraiment, ils nous accompagnent surtout. Donc, parfois, s'il y a quelque chose qu'on doit leur demander, on va leur demander parce que nous sommes des Waterkeepers. Donc, voilà, c'est un combat, c'est mon combat, c'est le vôtre, c'est le nôtre. Donc, nous tous, nous avons le même combat, c'est préserver l'eau. Donc, que ce soit au Sénégal, aux États-Unis, au Kenya, en Côte d'Ivoire ou partout ailleurs. Donc, nous savons que vous êtes derrière.
Et avec Mbeke Sec aussi.
Avec Mbeke, vraiment, oui. Parce que tout le début, c'est vraiment Mbeke aussi qui est l'élément déclencheur. Parce que c'est Mbeke qui a amené Sharon et Donan ici à Bargny. Donc, vraiment, Waterkeeper, c'est vraiment notre mentor. Mbeke, c'est quelqu'un de, voilà, vraiment au Sénégal, il fait de très, 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 très bonnes choses.
So Fadel is saying he's a waterkeeper and he's working very closely with the Waterkeeper Alliance that have been supporting them every step of the way, with Chris Wilke and other people who are interested and concerned with international waterkeepers. So if people want to find out more about the story, you can go to the Waterkeeper page and look up the story of either Fadel's Facebook page, Fadel's story as the Bargny Waterkeeper, or Mbeke Sek, who is the waterkeeper up a little bit north. So Fadel, I would like to now pivot to your problem which you're facing now, which is the threat of offshore drilling. Je voulais maintenant parler du forage de pétrole dans l'Atlantique et le problème que vous êtes en face de vous maintenant.
Voilà, merci beaucoup. Ce problème est encore plus compliqué, peut-être que la centrale.
So this problem may be even more complicated than the problem of coal-powered or gas-powered plants.
Parce que lorsque l'État du Sénégal a trouvé du pétrole, ils ont fait un peu de sensibilisation en disant que maintenant le Sénégal va se développer avec les ressources pétrolières, alors que nous savons que c'est pas exact.
Right. Okay. So here's what we're talking about. We're talking about future offshore drilling, not existing offshore drilling. They're talking about putting in offshore drilling plants off the coast of Senegal, and the government is again saying this will boost the Senegalese economy, and this will be a positive change for the Senegalese country, the country of Senegal. Obviously, we and Fadel and Mbeki have a very different opinion. Explain why it's a problem, Fadel.
Voilà, donc ils ont trouvé du pétrole au large de nos côtes. Donc quand on dit que le pétrole va développer le Sénégal, alors que la première production au Sénégal, c'est la pêche. La pêche, l'exportation, c'est la première production de l'exploitation au Sénégal, c'est la pêche. Maintenant, quand ils vont exploiter le pétrole, mais nous savons qu'il y a les risques de marée noire.
So Fadel wants to make the point that the very first industry, the first export in all of Senegal is export of fish. So the fish industry is extremely important to the economy of Senegal. So this is why he's advancing the argument that the offshore drilling will be deleterious to the economy of Senegal and not positive aid. On vous écoute.
Donc, quand ils disent qu'ils vont développer le Sénégal, mais nous pensons qu'ils vont effectivement appauvrir le Sénégal. Parce que tous ces pêcheurs, s'ils perdent leur emploi, par exemple, moi à Bargny, où j'habite, là où ils vont trouver le pétrole, il y a plus de 600 pirogues. Chaque pirogue emploie 40 à 50 personnes. Mais tous ces gens, s'ils perdent leur boulot, est-ce que le pétrole va les employer?
Il y a 600 pions, tu dis?
Il y a 600 pirogues, les pirogues. Les bateaux.
Ah, les bateaux, d'accord, okay.
Voilà, les bateaux de pêche.
So
Il y a plus de...
in the town where Fadel is, there are 600 fishing boats, and each fishing boat supports 50 people. So you can imagine the damage if the fishing industry is hurt by this offshore drilling. And Fadel was saying that the fish are extremely sensitive to vibration. So when they're drilling, this may disturb the fishing populations already and may affect their ability to successfully fish. But there's always the risk of a rupture where with an oil spill, and this could completely devastate the fishing economy. So that's why this is so important to fight. Not only the emissions of fossil fuels, but the economy directly concerned in Senegal and in Fadel's community of Bargny.
Donc, si ils détruisent la pêche, mais toutes ces personnes, avec leurs femmes qui faisaient la transformation, mais ils vont tous les réduire à la pauvreté. Alors, donc, comment peuvent-ils nous dire que le pétrole va développer le Sénégal? C'est pourquoi on est prêt à faire un plaidoyer, à faire des sensibilisations. Nous savons que ce serait difficile parce que les populations pensent qu'effectivement, c'est une aubaine. Le fait de trouver du pétrole, on va sortir un peu de la pauvreté, alors que ça ne va pas se passer comme ça.
Right. So there's two issues really. Obviously, the risk of damaging the very, very critical economy, the fishing economy of Senegal, is a huge risk, and all the people that are supported by that industry. And then there's the secondary issue, which is why are we even contemplating putting new oil wells off off the coast of Senegal in the ocean when we're trying to step away and retreat from fossil fuels in the first place. So those are the two arguments we're making.
Donc maintenant, le problème aussi, les pêcheurs locaux avaient mis des récifs à l'intérieur de la mer. Les récifs, c'est des pierres qu'on met à l'intérieur de la mer. Donc les poissons nobles viennent chercher de la chaleur. Après, ils pondent leurs œufs. En repartant, ils vont laisser les œufs. Après, si ça éclore, ça donne effectivement des poissons. Donc, la zone maintenant est très poissonneuse. Mais nous savons qu'avec l'exploitation du pétrole, le bruit, le poisson est très sensible au bruit. Donc, le bruit, ça va faire partir les poissons, les marées noires, ça va causer d'autres problèmes. Donc, vraiment, c'est pourquoi ce projet, on va tout faire. Nous ne disons pas que nous allons l'arrêter parce que nous avons de minimes moyens. Mais tout ce qu'on pourra, que ce soit sur le plan juridique, sur le plan social et sur le plan économique.
Okay. So Fadel is saying that the fishing community, which has been fishing for generations, perhaps thousands of years in Senegal, they have found a technique to put rocks in the ocean, which creates sort of little ad hoc reefs, which encourage the fish to spawn and they're concerned that the oil rigs will also disturb that system of putting little artificial reefs off the coast. So Fadel is saying they will do everything that they need to do to stop the offshore drilling. They will take it wherever they have to go because they feel that it is a social justice issue, a community economical issue for their community, and it is an issue for the survival of the planet as we know it on a grander scale.
Voilà, non, non, c'est juste des remerciements pour vraiment nous faire participer à cette COP combien important. C'est pourquoi nous remercions vraiment et encourageons le mouvement Waterkeeper, parce que c'est ça qu'on attend d'eux. Vraiment donner la parole aux populations. On n'a pas été associés. Pourtant, il y a un partenaire qui m'avait même pris en charge. Mais on a demandé l'accréditation. Le gouvernement du Sénégal a refusé de nous donner l'accréditation.
Pour assister à ce COP, ils ont
pour assister à un partenaire Natural Justice qui est un partenaire juridique qui nous avait un peu donné une prise en charge, mais ils ont refusé de nous donner l'accréditation. Donc vraiment,
So Fadel is
vraiment,
saying,
nous remercions Waterkeeper de nous avoir fait participer voilà, à cette COP. Et encore, on vous dit bravo et tous nos encouragements et félicitations.
Okay, so Fadel is saying he wants to thank us for giving him the opportunity to explain the situation there in Bargny. He wants to thank the Waterkeeper Alliance, which has really been so supportive of all his efforts. I mean, he's a waterkeeper, so we're all brothers in this fight. But he also wants to say that he applied to the government for accreditation to this COP, to come to this COP, to attend this COP, and he was refused the accreditation by his government. So he thanks us for allowing him to appear virtually and to get the word out about these issues. So there we are, Monsieur Fadel.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Fadel. On we go.
Merci.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Fadel, for your participation.
Merci, cher ami.
Okay.
Et bonjour à tout le monde, à Chris et tout le monde.
We will do that. All right. Thank you, Fadel.
Merci.
So there's an example of a really fine advocate for water and the environment in Senegal, in Bargny. And if you want to help, if you're interested in that cause, just send us a message. You can put a message in the chat. And we will connect you with him if there's any way that we can support his efforts. That would be great. Chris, do you have anything you want to say about Fadel and his work there?
Just that he's definitely got his hands full with this offshore drilling that's about to start in 2022 or 2023. Immense oil fields out there. We're not pussyfooting around with the small little companies either. I think Total is involved. As I think I mentioned in an earlier broadcast, the head of the IEA, the International Energy Agency, is calling for a cessation to all new oil field development, and yet this is what's going on, right? So this is the blah, blah, blah that we heard about. It's playing out there, and they always tout the economic benefits, but that oil is going to go in the global market. It's not going to solve, Senegal's energy crunch, and there'll be some royalties paid to the country, but not anywhere near what they're putting at risk, the livelihoods of their communities. So this is the song and dance that we see. In the US, we already know that wind and solar employ more people than oil, gas, and coal. So this is, this line about the economy, it really is a false line. There's the best way to help the economy is to give someone a job. And there's way more jobs building the infrastructure for wind and solar. And those are two things that he has in abundance in his community. 300 plus sunny days a year, and it blows like 25 miles an hour all the time there. So they should be really ramping up those technologies and not investing in the 19th and 20th century dead end of oil and gas and coal.
Okay, KC, maybe I can comment a little bit on this.
Please do.
I taught in Africa at an agricultural college back in 1984 and 85. And at that time, the telephone service was non-existent. We were depending upon radios with code names from the embassy and all of that's involved there. And then instead of the African nations ramping up their telecommunications with our old copper line wire systems, they leapfrogged. They chose the leapfrog technology and went straight to the cell phone. And now telecommunications are widely available through the cell phone technology throughout Africa. So it's an example of engaging the modern technologies rather than clinging to these old approaches. I also want to talk a little bit about the cooperation among waterkeepers and organizations between the nations. Back in 2016, when I was putting together the proposal for the Calusa Waterkeeper program, we had formed the Caloosahatchee River Watch back in '95, and in 2007, we had ambitions to become a waterkeeper. 2010, we started getting serious. And then finally, around 2014, they had the sort of junior waterkeeper affiliate program. So we engaged that process. And I had a couple of students, I host interns from around the world, and I had 2 students from Malawi, very talented young women, about 23, 24 years old. And they helped me put together the proposal for the Calusa Waterkeeper program. So it was a pleasure to work with these young activists from Africa in bringing benefits to the state of Florida with Waterkeeper. On the coal issue, it's very interesting. A lot of the arguments against coal need to be grounded or are easily grounded in economics. And doing the analysis of economics is so critical. Accurate, proper analysis. And that's a theme that we're going to revisit here in this series several times, I guarantee you. But that's what dragged me into the energy field fully from the water quality side. In 2006, I was serving on an economic development council for Glades County. Florida Power and Light wanted to build a 1,900 megawatt coal plant in Florida on the edge of the Everglades. So, we were making the arguments. The Congress was considering cap and trade and carbon tax back then. Of course, they didn't either, unfortunately. But I did the accounting on the company and realized that they had one of the lowest carbon footprints of any national utility in the country. So I said, why in the heck would they be proposing to build a coal plant in Florida? And all of a sudden a light bulb went off in my head, and it was like, no, they don't intend to build a coal plant. They simply want a permit in case Congress passes cap and trade. So they'll have some chips to trade. They'll be able to trade this permit rather than actual coal plant. So I put this to the FPL officials, and they all denied it at the state level. But then years later, I encountered a retired official from NextEra, and he admitted that was in fact their gambit. And they never even told the Florida officials that was the overall corporate strategy. So you really have to watch these companies and what they're doing and what they're saying, and follow the money, study the numbers, and you can often uncover what the real motivations are. So fortunately, our state government, Charlie Crist was governor at the time, a Republican, in fact, and they denied that permit. But he's actually running again now as a Democrat for governor of Florida, interestingly. But that forced me to fully engage the process of accounting on basically what's called ecological economics. And it led to a Department of Energy project for my office, quite large one with the University of Florida. And we did a lot of significant work on calculating the impacts of biofuels on the environment and just the energetics, and pointed out to the officials that once you look into these fads, these supposed technologies, and really drill down into the numbers, they often do not hold up at all on any level, the energy level or the environmental level. And it involves more costs, to the community than benefits. And often it's about what sort of time scale you use in your analysis. If you use an extremely short time scale, maybe there's some benefits. But once you integrate the longer term, the costs become all too apparent.
Yeah, we've seen that, John, with hydroelectric dams. They know that they emit methane, but they still claim that they're low carbon or carbon neutral. And the way they get around it is most of the methane is emitted in the first 10 or 20 years. And they want to amortize it over 100 years, or what they determine to be the lifespan of the dam. So they use these techniques to sort of trick the numbers a little bit.
Yeah. So John, thank you for weighing in on that. And Chris, we have quite a brain trust here, so I really appreciate you guys weighing in. Chris, can you tell us a little bit about what you have planned for tomorrow?
Yeah, well, tomorrow's going to be one of my busiest days, so I hope to get a good night's sleep and be fully over my jet lag by then. Tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., actually, I think it's midnight local time is when it is officially released, is the Insure Our Future global report on the investments and underwriting of the insurance industry in climate wrecking fossil fuel projects. And this is their 5th report. It's an annual report. Waterkeeper is a member of this coalition. We have monthly calls and weekly calls and subgroups. And there are some amazing people that are really crunching numbers and doing a lot of research, contacting insurance companies, asking them where they're invested. They don't always get an answer. They usually don't, and they dig around. And they finally come up with this report, and they rank the laggards and the leaders in fossil fuels. And why insurance? Well, it just so happens that insurance is kind of a key linchpin in this whole thing. A lot of people are familiar with the concept of divestment. There's a lot of pressure on Chase Bank, for example, to stop underwriting climate chaos. You see that all the time. Well, there's thousands of banks, and if there's usually another banker behind the next one that is willing to lend money, but there's only a handful of insurance companies capable of underwriting a big fossil fuel project. And there's also this reinsurance business where a lot of them sell their insurance up the pipeline, so to speak. Those companies are starting to move. They're starting to move on coal in particular the Europeans. And I shouldn't say too much about this report because it is officially released tomorrow. But we have an event at the COP at 9 a.m. local time and a press conference at 1 o'clock. And then we will have links to it on the Waterkeeper webpage and also the Insure Our Future webpage. And it gets right to the point and names who those companies are. And some of them are some very familiar names.
Yeah, we're really eager to see the results of that scorecard and how you're going to hold people accountable and hold their feet to the fire. I have a feeling that some of the American insurance companies are going to find themselves at the bottom of that favorable list. I got a sneak peek, and it looked like something like 6 out of the 10 worst offenders were American companies, something like that. So we're going to cover that tomorrow, and really grateful for bringing that to the fore. That's such an important piece, and it isn't one that people naturally think about, is how the insurance industry, how you can leverage the insurance industry in these climate change causes. Same thing with the financial institutions. How do you bring pressure to bear to get them to divest or to get them to reprioritize? So that's really important work. So we will be
hearing some coal mines, brand new coal mines, unable to buy insurance right now, and it's because of this pressure that's being put on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we hope to interview Lindsay Keenan tomorrow, who is the European coordinator for Sunrise, and they're partnered with the Insure Our Future. So we're going to catch up with him tomorrow. He'll be our interview guest tomorrow. Really eloquent gentleman, and he happens to be, even though he doesn't live here, he's a Glaswegian, so he's come back to the roost for this conference. He happens to be coming home. So we'll do an interview with him tomorrow, and that'll be part of our show tomorrow. So we really want to thank John and Chris for joining us tonight, and hope to be seeing you during the week, Chris, and tuning into all the great work you're doing. And John will be with us every night now, so you'll hear more of his wisdom and knowledge. Really appreciate that. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm K.C. Schulberg, the Collier County Waterkeeper. We thank you for tuning in, and it will be the same time tomorrow. So thank you very much, folks, and enjoy your evenings.